What's going on, you guys? AJ Tucker here with AJ Self Defense, and today I want to talk about a little bit about furries. Okay, my kids came home from school because this is like the second week of school or whatever. And the other day they were in the car and they were talking about how there were a couple of kids who were wearing like collars, and the other kid had a leash, and they were leading each other by the leash and the collar. They were wearing dog ears. Somebody had a face paint of a skull, or they had, they were even wearing tails at school. And so at first I was like, what in the hell is going on? I was like, man, I want my kids to learn about math, English, and business. I don't want them learning about 50 Shades of Grey. All right. And I posted it on social media. A lot of people agreed. And then somebody said, hey man, look up furries. And I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna look up furries and see what the heck is this, but I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna have any mercy on this. And so then I started looking into it, and I had no idea what it was or what it was about. It's a lot of kids trying to identify themselves. They're trying to self-identify. They're trying to find their way, and this is one of the ways that they do it. And so my first initial response was like, man, you can't have this at school. And I still feel that way in a sense, because some of the kids who were dressing up as furries, back in my day, we called it beastkin. All right, but some of the kids dressing up as furries, they bark and they growl at people and they act like animals. And the thing is, man, if like, let's say, I got a friend of mine and she's into, horror movies and Comic-Con and stuff like that. And she goes and she travels and she goes to these conventions, which is pretty cool. You see pictures, but she never comes, to my place of business or wherever, dressed out in a Jason mask. That's my only thing. That's my only thing about that. Like if you're gonna identify yourself as that, do it in kind of a subtle way that's still cool, and you're not barking at people and you're not meowing at people, or you're not like crawling up to people or anything like that. And so I had time to think about it last night, and there are a lot of kids out here. They're getting bullied. They're getting bullied because of that. So I don't want kids to get bullied, and I have no idea what these kids are going through. But I know in every group there are a couple of trolls. There are people who will take advantage of this situation, and so I'm trying to be. So, these kids are trying to find themselves. They're trying to identify with something, and they're trying to let others know it in subtle ways. So, make sure you look it up. I'm not going to go into the whole thing about it. I'm not going to give a history lesson, because I'm learning day by day some of the stuff that I already know and some of the stuff that I don't. Now, one of my friends, he made a point to me. He was like, hey, man, in the 90s, we used to have people that wore the spike collars and stuff like that. And I remember that back in the day. But here's the thing. They wore their stuff. They did their thing. And they didn't do anything to anybody. They didn't bother anybody. They just, they had their own style, and nobody really bothered them. And they had their own little group. Like back in the day, we called them new wavers. And then, I heard, emo and stuff like that. And that was cool, because they did their own thing. But the problem that I had with this is, yes, they're wearing this stuff. And, my daughter, she has super long arms, right? And so if her fingers go past her shorts, then she's going to get a dress code violation. Or if she wears leggings to school, she's going to get a dress code violation. Or if she wears, like, she likes to wear caps and stuff like that. So if she wears a ball cap, I had one up here, I don't have any more. If she wears a ball cap, then she's going to get doxxed for that, right? But at the same time, at the same school, people are able to wear collars and lead each other by a leash. And that has, that has fetish connotations to it. And all of a sudden, my kid is being exposed to that. And some people may say, oh, well, they should already know. It's like, well, I disagree, but that's not something they should be learning and finding out in school. That's how I feel. But also, you can wear animal ears, but you can't wear a cap. So in my opinion, I don't like that, So, but the thing is, if they wear that, that's cool. I'm still cool with that. But what I'm not cool with is when my daughter is sitting in class and the girl behind her keeps meowing at her, or my daughter is walking through the hallways and these boys are barking at her. And here's the thing, my daughter is not a victim. I'm more I don't worry about her like feeling like having problems and feeling all scared. I am more worried about her going up to somebody, barking at her, and getting into it with them. Punching them in the face. I'm gonna just say it, punch them in the face. Because if I'm walking by and somebody's barking and growling at me, then I'm gonna feel some type of way, because that mess is not normal, right? And what is normal anymore? What is, I don't even know. And so I really had to look deeper into it. And so I will say my final verdict. This is an ongoing situation. This is fluid. Teachers and principals and stuff, they do not have an easy job, because as counselors, as teachers and things like that, you're trying to make a safe space. You're trying to make a safe space for all students, right? But then on the flip side, when you work really, really hard to make a safe space for one group, and some people, some people within that group will take advantage of it and act out a little bit more than they would if they didn't have all those privileges, then you're screwing over another group. You're making another group feel uncomfortable, and they can't say anything. Or when the bullying starts to happen, it's like, oh man, y'all just bully him just because of this. But you might not have been there when the person was barking and growling at them. I'm gonna put the video in the description, but there's one situation, and this is not at my daughter's school or anything like that. So if you're one of my friends who's a teacher, please don't be like, oh, I didn't see that happen in my school. Because one of my friends hit me up. She's a coach, and my daughter had just came home, and she took a picture of the girl, and I was like talking about it. She was like, well, I didn't see that. And it's like, if you're a teacher, you're not going to see everything kids are doing. You're just not going to see every single thing. That's what I'll say to that. But there was a story, I just read about a story where a girl was in school and she was crying, right? And the teacher was like, why are you crying? And she said, my dog just died. So there was one guy that was sitting behind her. He identifies as like a wolf or something like that. He gets on his hands and knees and he crawls up to her and he starts rubbing his head on her leg. And she didn't know what the heck a flurry was. And she was crying in class because her dog had died, right? And she was like, what are you doing? And he basically said, well, if your dog died, I'll be your companion. I'll be your dog. And she was like, what? No. And so it turned into this big situation. And she slaps him. And with him identifying as like a wolf or a wolfkin or whatever, he bites her. I don't know if he drew blood or anything like that, but it's like, come on, man, you taking advantage of the rules. You're trolling in that situation. And so that's kind of the dark side to it. Now on the flip side, I do think, upon like looking at things and things that I know about kids trying to find their way, they do need to be given a safe space, because there's no telling what they're going through. And so it's a fine line between creating a safe space for these kids, but at the same time, when these kids are given a safe space, you have to move a certain way. So last night I was like, man, you need to totally take this out of school. Where now I'm kind of thinking it's like, okay, all right, if you violating, if you get to wear the dog ears and you barking at people and growling at people and people don't like it, maybe you as an individual get those privileges taken away. And then when you serve a little probation, you can get those privileges back, and if it's within reason, my son, he's in high school. He said a kid painted his face like a skull and nobody said anything to him. And so it's like, wait a minute, how can he do this? So I think like, instead of just coming with some blanket rule for everybody, we just have to continue to use common sense in each situation. And because I didn't even realize that there was kids, trying to find their way. And when I say find their way, I mean as like how they identify themselves. And that's dangerous. That is straight up dangerous. Not to us, but to themselves. Like if they identify as something different and other kids don't get it, it puts them in harm's way. And so the fact that they're doing that means that they really believe in that, right? But on the flip side, you don't need to be going up to people and barking at them, or you should not be allowed to hold a leash and somebody else has a collar and you walking them like a dog. I don't think that's cool in school. Now, if you want to do that in your backyard or outside or whatever, you can go to the mall and do it. Okay, whatever. All right. But in school, yes, please make a safe space for these kids. But at the same time, don't make it an unsafe place for all the other kids, for a group, especially if they're trolling, But anyway, man, I wanted to talk about that. And I do think it falls under the umbrella of self-defense because it goes into bullying. It goes into bullying on both ends. And so if you're a flurry, and you go to school and you identify as that and you like, you know what, I'm just going to be myself, there's a chance that people may bully you, right? On the flip side, though, if you're just a regular kid going to school, there may be, a flurry who's kind of like more aggressive and, they like to bark and bite people and stuff like that. You may get bullied on the flip side. And so there's two different ways to watch about it. And I think that common sense rules, you got to look at each situation and use common sense. That's all I got for this, folks. And, I'm mainly talking to the parents when I do this because I'm an old head, so I got teenage kids or whatever. And so, what do you think? If you're a parent, what do you think about this, man? That's all I got. I will talk to you next time.